I've been a mechanic in Michigan for over 20 years. Mostly small-town stuff, brakes, timing belts, transmissions. The garage sits just off I-75, tucked between a pawn shop and an old diner that's somehow still open. I run it alone most days. 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Not because business is booming, but because silence is worse than engines whining. On quiet nights, I listen to the ticking of cooling metal, the soft buzz of overhead lights, the occasional freight truck groaning down the highway. The garage smells like burnt oil, rubber, and stale coffee. It's not glamorous, but it's mine. It was Thursday when they brought the truck in. A long-haul Freightliner, massive, mangled, and soaked with snowmelt and blood. The tow driver wouldn't meet my eye when he dropped it off. State Patrol cleared it for release, he muttered. Said it was mechanical failure. But he didn't sound convinced. Neither was I. The thing was wrecked, the cab crushed inward, the windshield spiderwebbed from the inside, like someone tried to punch their way out. Worse, the driver's door was missing entirely. Gone. I asked the usual questions. Where's it from? Wyoming plates, he said. Coming through on an overnight haul. Both men inside, driver and co-driver, were dead on arrival. You see many like this? He shook his head. Not like this. State guy said the logs were all wrong. They were going 22 miles an hour. But you don't get that kind of damage at 22. After he left, I just stood there, staring at the wreck like it was breathing. There was something wrong with it. Not just the crumpled frame with the streaks of red across the chrome grille, but a feeling thick in the air, like static before a lightning strike. I put on gloves, grabbed my flashlight, and climbed inside the cab. The seat was still soaked. Not with blood that had dried, but with something slicker. Fresher. The air reeked of diesel and copper. There were deep gouges in the dash. The kind someone makes when they're trying to claw their way out. And then I saw it. A cell phone wedged between the seat and center console. Still blinking. One new voicemail. I looked around. No cops. No one. I pressed play. There was a pause. Then, heavy breathing. Wind. Something banging metal on metal. Then a voice. He's not letting us out, he's not letting us out. A scream. Then silence. The message ended. I dropped the phone like it burned. I don't scare easy. But that night, I didn't close up shop. I left the bay lights on. I sat in the office, staring at the CCTV monitor, watching that truck, just in case. At 3:13 a.m., the screen glitched. Then I saw movement in the cab. Just a flicker, like a shadow shifting in the passenger seat. I leaned in. There was someone in the truck, sitting still, hands on the wheel. But I checked that cab 3 times. It was empty. I sat motionless in my office chair, eyes fixed on the grainy screen. The figure in the cab wasn't moving. But it was there unmistakably. A dark silhouette behind the cracked windshield, hands gripping the steering wheel. I checked the time again, 3:13 a.m. Same timestamp the CCTV froze last month when raccoons shorted the motion sensor. Back then, I laughed it off. This time, I didn't. I reached for the intercom mic and pressed the garage loudspeaker. "Hey! You're not supposed to be in there." No response. The figure didn't flinch. It just sat. Rigid. Like it had always been there. Then the screen glitched just once and the cab was empty again. I rushed out to the bay, half expecting to catch a junkie trying to sleep off a bad trip. But when I opened the cab door, it was cold. Too cold. Colder than the garage itself. As if something had pulled the heat out of the air. No sign of anyone. No footprints in the fresh snow dragged in by the tow rig. Just silence. And the faintest smell of burning rubber. I told myself I was tired. Overworked. Paranoid. But then I noticed the passenger seat. The indentation. As if someone had just been sitting there, leaned back, head against the rest, legs planted. And on the dash, a handprint. Not mine. Pressed into the glass from the inside. Smudged with something dark and dry, too thick for grease. I grabbed a rag to wipe it off. But the second I touched the window, I heard it. Bang. 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 From the inside of the trailer. 3 sharp thuds, like fists pounding metal. I froze. It couldn't be rodents, nothing that heavy. And the trailer had been sealed by the highway patrol. Or at least, it was supposed to be. I walked slowly around to the rear of the truck. The cargo doors were padlocked. Still in place. Still sealed. But the metal was bent outward like something had tried to get out. There were claw marks. 5 long scrapes, like a hand dragging down the steel. And beneath them, words were etched in the grime. We never stopped. I backed away. Fast. The next day, I called the state patrol. Asked if they wanted to come pick the truck up early. "We've got it scheduled for Monday," they said. "Wreckage is still under review." What's the rush? I didn't tell them about the voicemail. Or the shadow. Or the pounding in the trailer. Because I knew what they'd say. That I was sleep deprived. Hearing things. Imagining ghosts in diesel fumes. That night, I tried not to look at the CCTV. Tried not to think about 313. But at 312, the lights in the garage turned on by themselves. And this time, I saw 2 figures in the cab. Both sitting upright. Both staring at the office camera. The next morning, I arrived at the garage a little before 8 a.m. I hadn't really slept. Just laid in bed, eyes open, mind replaying that CCTV footage over and over. 2 figures. Sitting in the cab. Both staring straight at the office camera like they knew I was watching. And the lights they had turned on by themselves at exactly 3:12 a.m. I told myself I needed to prove it wasn't real. Needed to open that truck back up and settle my nerves. I walked into the bay with a wrench in my hand. Not for fixing anything. Just to feel like I was holding something solid. The cab was silent. No lights, no voices. I climbed inside again, bracing for the worst. This time, there was no handprint on the dash. No voicemail blinking on the phone. But the radio was on. Old freightliners like this had analog rigs, CBs. This one was active, buzzing softly with static, though the ignition was still dead. Then a voice came through, garbled but low and slow. "Still here, 30 miles out, no brakes, he's in the sleeper." Another burst of static. Then the voice again, louder this time. "He won't stay in the sleeper, he's moving again." My blood ran cold. The co-driver had said the same thing in the voicemail. I yanked the power cord from the rig. The radio went dead. I stepped out of the cab and just stood there, staring at the truck like it had become a second mouth, whispering things that didn't belong in the world. Then I noticed the trailer again. The side panel had new damage. A dent in the steel like something had pushed out from the inside during the night. Worse, there was a smear mark, about 4 feet long, dark and faintly greasy, as if someone or something had been dragged. I decided to unseal it. Not because I wanted to. Because I needed to know. The bolt cutters cracked through the padlock. I pulled the handle. The cargo doors creaked open on rusted hinges, revealing total darkness inside. I clicked on my flashlight. The beam hit the far wall, empty shelving, some crates, chains hanging loose from the ceiling. And then I saw the chains swinging slightly, even though the air was dead still. A faint scraping sound echoed from the back. Metal dragging on metal. I stepped 1 foot inside. The cold hit me instantly, like I'd walked into a freezer. The flashlight flickered. Then I heard it. "He's back." A whisper. "Male." Right in my ear. I turned around fast, light shaking, but no one was behind me. Just the inside of the trailer. Still swinging chains. Still nothing visible. I stumbled backward and shut the doors. Relocked them with a new padlock, even though I knew it wouldn't matter. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I called Father Mike. Father Mike used to bless the garage once a year, back when my mother was still alive and thought it couldn't hurt. He wasn't a traditional priest, more of a roadside pastor with a guitar and pickup truck. But he had a way of listening without judgment. I told him about the truck, the CCTV, the whispers, the voicemail. There was a long pause. "Do you still have the phone?" he asked. "Yeah." "Bring it to me. Don't listen to the message again. Just bring it." That afternoon, I made the drive. Snow falling heavy, sky gray and flat like sheet metal. When I handed him the phone, he stared at it like it was a piece of roadkill. "This isn't the first time I've seen something like this," he said. "Accidents leave scars, not just on roads, but on time. Energy. Places. Sometimes the pain echoes. Sometimes it remembers." He prayed over the phone, poured holy water on it, and put it inside a sealed metal box. Then he handed me a small wooden cross. "Hang it in the garage. Over the bay doors. Tonight." Before 3:13. I drove home faster than usual. Hung the cross above the bay doors, just like he said. And then I waited. At 3:11 a.m., the lights flickered. At 3:12, the CCTV screen turned to snow. At 3:13, the doors of the garage opened by themselves. And this time, something stepped out of the cab. I stood frozen as the garage bay doors creaked open slowly, like pulled by invisible hands. The wind outside hadn't triggered them. There was no remote. And the motion sensors had been disabled since last week. Yet there they were, yawning open to the cold night air, as if welcoming something in. Or out. The lights overhead buzzed once, then stabilized, casting long shadows over the floor. And then I saw it. A figure climbing down from the cab. One foot. Then the other. Barefoot. Skin gray, almost waxy under the fluorescent light. It wasn't the driver. Not the co-driver either. It was something else, like a person half-formed, as if it had been pulled from memory, or worse, from trauma. Its face was the worst part. No eyes. No mouth. No nose. Just the suggestion of features stretched too thin, as if painted over a smooth mask. It stood at the center of the garage, facing me. And though it had no eyes, I felt it looking. Through me. It tilted its head slowly, like it was remembering something. Then it began walking. Not toward me, but toward the workbench, where the truck's black box data recorder lay in pieces. I had removed it earlier that day, planning to extract trip logs. The state patrol hadn't come for it, and curiosity had gotten the better of me. I hadn't even opened it yet. But the thing, it reached down and pointed at it. Its finger, long, bone-like, ending in a cracked nail, tapped twice on the metal casing. Tap. Tap. Then it slowly turned and looked at me again. No face. But I could feel its gaze. Then it walked back toward the truck. Climbed into the cab. Sat in the driver's seat. And vanished. I didn't sleep that night. I watched the footage on repeat. Every angle showed the same. The doors opened. The figure stepped out. It pointed at the black box. It returned. And disappeared. But there was no thermal reading. No EMF spike. No trace on the pressure sensors. Just the echo of footsteps, and the hum of something unnatural lingering in the air. The next day, I did what I should have done earlier. I opened the black box. Inside were the logs, standard GPS data, brake reports, driver rest schedules. Most of it was normal. Boring, even. Until I reached the final 90 seconds. Then it all went wrong. 2:52 and 41 seconds AM, speed, 63 miles per hour. 2 hours 52 minutes and 42 seconds, brakes engaged. 2 hours 52 minutes and 44 seconds, brake override failure. 2 hours 52 minutes and 47 seconds, engine throttle full. 2 hours 52 minutes and 50 seconds, external door open. 2 hours 52 minutes and 53 seconds, passenger audio recorded. 2 hours 52 minutes and 54 seconds, passenger, he's not in the sleeper anymore, he's in the cab. 2 hours 52 minutes and 56 seconds, screaming begins. 2 hours 52 minutes and 57 seconds, collision warning ignored. 2 hours 52 minutes and 59 seconds, passenger, he's not driving, he's not driving. 2 hours 53 minutes and 1 second, impact detected. Then, silence. I played the audio file. The voice matched the one from the phone voicemail. Except this time, it went longer. After the impact, there was a faint rasp, almost inaudible, like someone breathing. Then, "Don't let him. Go back." The file ended. That night, I stared at the cab from the office window, wondering what the co-driver meant. Who was he? Or was he trying to go back to? And more importantly, why was the black box the only thing the shadow pointed at? I made a decision. I took the box, wrapped it in a towel, drove 40 minutes to Lake Vinter, deep woods, frozen shore. And I threw it in. Watched it sink under ice and fog. Then I drove home, feeling like maybe it was over. Until I returned to the garage the next day. The black box was sitting on the workbench, dripping wet, covered in handprints. The black box sat where I had thrown it away the night before. Still dripping. Still cold. Covered in handprints, not full ones, but faint, partial impressions, like someone had pressed slick fingers against the metal, over and over. I stood there for a long time, not touching it. The garage was dead quiet, like it was holding its breath. Whatever had brought that thing back, it didn't want to be discarded. It wanted to be heard. I grabbed a pair of thick gloves, wrapped the black box in a tarp, and sealed it inside an oil drum. Then I bolted the drum shut with heavy clamps and shoved it in the corner behind the tire stacks. I didn't know what else to do. But that was the moment the temperature dropped again. My breath fogged the air. The fluorescent lights flickered. Then popped. Then went dead. I heard it before I saw it. A low thrum, like distant wheels spinning in gravel. Then, footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Getting closer. I backed into the office, locked the door, and checked the CCTV monitors. All of them were black except one. The camera pointed at the main garage bay. In the frame, the truck was gone. The trailer was still there. But the cab? Vanished. I blinked, leaned closer, then felt my stomach twist. The truck wasn't gone. It had moved. The cab had turned, now facing the office. Headlights glowing. But I hadn't heard the engine. I hadn't heard anything move. It had turned without sound. Then the headlights flicked once like a nod. And the horn blared. A single, deafening blast that rattled the windows. I dove to the floor, heart pounding. When I looked back up, the lights were off again. I waited an hour before stepping outside. The cab hadn't moved. Still there. But there were fresh footprints in the snow from the truck to the office. Bare feet. And beneath one window pane, scratched into the frost, were the words, "You heard him." That was when I stopped pretending I was in control. I called Father Mike again. Told him everything, the black box returning, the cab moving, the scratches on the window. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You're dealing with a resonance. A spirit that's trapped in its own moment. It wants release, but not peace. It wants to be repeated." He came that night. This time with another man, older, quieter, with a rust-colored coat and eyes that had seen too much. They brought holy water, incense, salt, a worn leather Bible. I showed them everything. The truck, the black box, the CCTV clips. The older man nodded slowly. "He's not bound to the wreck," he said. "He's bound to the route. Whatever happened, happened over and over. Enough to rip something open." They began the blessing around midnight. Lines of salt around the garage doors. Chants I didn't recognize. Sprinkling water in the shape of a cross over the cab. It felt wrong, like we were disturbing something that didn't want to be disturbed. And at 3:13, it reacted. The garage floor shook. Not violently, just enough to rattle the tools on the walls. The horn blared again, unprovoked. The trailer doors slammed themselves shut. And then, from inside the truck, a voice. This time, it was clear. "Don't let him drive again." Father Mike stepped forward. "Who is he?" he asked the empty air. "What does he want?" But the voice didn't respond. Instead, the radio crackled to life on its own. "We never made it to Denver." He kept driving. Kept going. "He won't stop." Then static. Then silence. They finished the ritual. Left behind a small talisman to hang over the cab. A copper coin with strange markings, something the older man claimed was a binding ward. I thanked them. They left with hollow eyes. And I stayed behind. Alone. With a truck that remembered everything. Even the pain. I didn't open the garage the next day. Didn't touch the tools. Didn't answer the phone. I just sat in the office, lights off, eyes glued to the monitors. Watching. Waiting. Listening. The truck sat there. Silent. Frozen in time like a corpse that hadn't figured out it was dead yet. And yet, it was awake. The radio would crackle every few hours, sometimes letting out fragments of speech. "He's still behind the wheel. Don't fall asleep." There was no turn off. Each message said more than the last. Like a memory unfolding, but out of order. I decided to do something dangerous. I pulled up the wreck's original route manifest. The manifest listed pickup from Pittsburgh, delivery to Denver. The truck had crashed in Michigan, a state that wasn't even on the route. Why? There were no alternate paths logged. The GPS logs just ended. Like the truck had left the map entirely. So I got into my own car and followed the stretch of highway where the crash occurred, headed east out of the city. There was one stop not on the manifest, a service station near an abandoned off-ramp. No signage, no lights, just rusted rails and gravel. But the tracks, the tire marks, were still there. I parked and stepped out. Cold bit my face. Wind howled across the snowdrift lot. The building was gutted. Shell of what used to be a diner or rest stop. I walked through it, flashlight in hand, until I found the back lot. That's where I saw it. A second cab. Half buried in snow. Same make, same model. No trailer. just a cab. But this one was older, a different serial number. Paint flaking. Windshield cracked wide open. And slumped in the driver's seat, a skeleton. Still dressed in a faded trucking uniform. I called the sheriff immediately. They came out, set up lights, taped off the area. The coroner said the body had been there for at least 6 years. ID was too degraded to confirm. But on the dashboard, scrawled into the plastic with a knife, were the words, "He drove me too." That night, I got another voicemail. Same number. Same timestamp, 3:13 a.m. But this one was different. He's looking for a way back. If you hear the horn, do not answer. He remembers your voice. Click. I checked the garage cameras. The truck was still there. But now the passenger door was open. And someone was sitting in the passenger seat. Not the faceless figure. Me. Or someone that looked exactly like me. Same jacket. Same boots. Same posture. It sat there, staring forward. Not moving. I rushed outside. The cab was empty. But the driver's seat was wet. Like someone had just been there. That night, I stayed at a motel. Left the garage behind. Thought about burning it down. But I couldn't stop wondering. Who was the original driver? Was this some kind of cursed route, or worse, was the route itself a loop? A memory playing itself again and again? Maybe every few years, it finds a new driver. Maybe that's what happened 6 years ago. Maybe now, it's trying again. At 3:13 a.m., my phone rang. Blocked number. I didn't answer. But the voicemail it left was shorter this time. Just 3 words. I didn't sleep. Not after that voicemail. Not after hearing your turn next. It wasn't a threat. It was a sentence. One that had already been passed. I packed a bag, turned off my phone, and drove out of town. No map. No direction. Just movement, like if I stayed still, he'd find me faster. I ended up in the Upper Peninsula, parked by an old fishing cabin that hadn't been used in years. Wood rot. Dust. No signal. I thought maybe I could outrun whatever this was. But I was wrong. That first night, I heard the horn again. Not on the road. Not from memory. Right outside. I peeked through the broken blinds. There it was. The truck. Somehow it had followed me. No driver. No trailer. Just a cab, idling softly, headlights off, like it was waiting. I didn't open the door. Didn't go near the window again. I sat in a corner, knife in one hand, cross in the other, flashlight between my knees. Then, at exactly 3:13 a.m., the headlights flicked on. Bright. Blinding. And the engine revved. It didn't move forward. But the passenger door opened. Waiting. In the morning, the truck was gone. Like it had never been there. But tire marks were carved into the dirt and snow. Deep. Violent. Fresh. I went back to Father Mike. Told him everything. He didn't look surprised. "I think you were marked from the moment you touched the wreck," he said. "It's not just a haunting. It's a possession of purpose. A compulsion. He's not after your soul. He's after your role. The driver always has to be someone." We dug deeper into the accident history. Not just the one from last week, but the same model of truck, same company, same route. And what we found chilled me to the bone. Every 5 to 6 years, there was a crash. Same vehicle specs. Always en route from Pittsburgh to Denver. Always off course. Always involving 2 people, a driver and a co-driver. The co-driver always died. The driver? Vanished, presumed missing. Until a new truck shows up again. I realized something. That skeleton in the abandoned cab 6 years ago? That wasn't the original driver. That was the last guy like me. The one who tried to stop it, couldn't, and got pulled into the role. The truck finds people close to its story. People with garages. People who listen. People who remember. Father Mike told me there might be one way out. A ritual old, risky, incomplete. But it had worked once before, barely. "You need to finish the route," he said. "Drive it from where it started. Pittsburgh. Deliver the last cargo manifest to Denver. Close the loop. If you do, maybe he lets go." It sounded insane. But something in me agreed. Like I'd known all along. I was already becoming him. The truck was appearing in my dreams. I'd wake up with my hands in driving position. Left foot twitching like pressing a clutch. Eyes burning from imagined headlights. It wasn't just haunting me. It was training me. So I went back. To the garage. The truck was still there. Lights dim. Radio silent. Cab empty. I climbed in. The seat was warm. The keys were already in the ignition. And the dashboard clock? It blinked 3:13. I turned the key. The engine roared awake. And the radio came to life. Final haul. Pittsburgh to Denver. ETA, never. The truck rumbled under me like a living thing. As I pulled out of the garage, headlights cutting through the Michigan fog, I felt it, the shift. The world outside wasn't quite right. The roads looked the same, but the signs were faded. The air was too still. Time felt wrong. And the dashboard clock? It stayed at 3:13. No matter how far I drove. I followed the route from the original manifest. Pittsburgh to Denver, over 1,000 miles. But the highway didn't behave normally. Roads looped. Signs vanished. At one point, I passed the same gas station 3 times, even though I hadn't turned. And each time I passed, someone was standing at the pumps. The same man. Tall. Thin. Wearing a black jacket. No face. On the 4th pass, he raised one hand and pointed at me. Then vanished. The radio crackled. "Don't stop. Don't look. Just drive." I pressed harder on the pedal. The truck obeyed, but it didn't feel like I was driving anymore. It was like the road had a mind of its own, and I was just fulfilling something. Hours passed, maybe days. Hard to tell. I didn't eat, didn't sleep, didn't need to. Just mile after mile of shadow highway. Then, somewhere in what looked like Nebraska, I saw something in the road. A wreck. Flipped car. Smoke curling upward. Flashing hazard lights. And in front of it, a man waving for help. I slowed down. He was yelling, pleading, eyes white with fear. But just before I stopped, I noticed something. No shadow. The headlights lit the road perfectly, but the man cast no shadow. Then he grinned too wide, teeth like broken glass, and started walking toward the cab. I slammed the gas. The truck screamed forward, nearly clipping him. In the rearview mirror, he stood perfectly still, smile fading. The radio hissed. Almost there. Don't look back. The landscape began to change. Mountains. Trees. Colorado. I was getting close. And then, I saw it. Denver. Empty. Silent. Frozen in a gray dawn. I pulled into the delivery depot listed on the original manifest. No other trucks. No workers. Just an open dock. The door raised on its own. And a voice came from the radio, distorted, ancient, hollow. Final stop. Step out. I opened the door. The air was still. I walked to the back of the truck. Opened the trailer. Inside, there was nothing. Just a long, dark space. But as I stood there, the walls began to shift, metal turning soft, the space deepening. It wasn't a trailer anymore. It was a tunnel. And at the far end, I saw him. The original driver. Or what was left of him. Slumped. Eyes gone. Skin pale as wax. He looked at me. Then nodded. And whispered, "You made it." I stepped forward. The tunnel swallowed me in darkness. For a moment, I felt weightless. Then, I woke up. In my garage. The truck. Gone. No tire marks. No trailer. Just empty space. And on the workbench, the black box. With a new log file. 3 hours and 13 minutes route complete. 3 hours 13 minutes and 1 second driver released. 3 hours 13 minutes and 2 seconds searching. 3 hours 13 minutes and 3 seconds replacement pending. I burned it. Took gasoline. Soaked the box. Lit a match. Watched it hiss and curl into ash. The air felt lighter. For the first time in weeks, I slept. But every night since, I've had the same dream. A long highway. A black cab. Headlights in the dark. And a voice whispering from the dashboard. Just one more run.